Welcome to Sportpen.
Great to be here.
Today, we're strapping on the cleats and stepping up to the plate, really digging into the enduring legend of the 1927 New York Yankees.
The 27 Yankees, Murderers Row, an iconic team.
Exactly. And we're not just here to spit out batting averages, are we? Our aim is to really understand that, that electric convergence of talent, leadership, and sheer grit that made them, a sporting Everest.
Right. We want to get past just the box scores, understand the essence of why they're still talked about almost a century later.
It's about grasping what made them legendary, fundamentally.
Precisely. We're looking at how these individual stars aligned, how they navigated challenges, and ultimately how they kind of redefined baseball dominance.
Tracing that whole journey, from hopefuls to, an undisputed dynasty.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Okay, so before they became this pinstriped powerhouse we all picture, the Yankees actually had a bit of an underdog story, didn't they? They were called an orphan ball club, I read somewhere.
That's right. It wasn't always glory days. Starting out as the Highlanders, they were a bit nomadic, you could say. No consistent home field for a while.
Yeah, not exactly the foundation for a dynasty, is it? Kind of bouncing around.
Definitely not. Their early years were marked by instability, which honestly makes their later success even more remarkable. They lacked that solid fan base, that consistent playing environment.
So what changed?
Well, the big shift came with the acquisition by Jacob Ruppert and Tillinghast Houston. They weren't just owners, they were investors, committed to building something real.
They put their money where their mouth was, basically.
Pretty much. They invested in the team, sure, but also, crucially, in a proper home. The original Yankee Stadium. That gave them an identity, a stage.
The house that Ruth built, although maybe that came slightly later.
The nickname did, yeah, but the stadium itself was foundational. And, even those pinstripes, adopted back in 1915, they slowly became this really powerful symbol of what the team was becoming.
Right, the looks started coming together, too. And then came the Thunderbolt, 1920. Babe Ruth arrives from Boston.
Oh, yeah. That changed everything.
It wasn't just that he hit home runs, was it? It was the whole spectacle. He just captivated the city, maybe the whole country.
Absolutely. Ruth was a genuine catalyst. He wasn't just adding a great bat. He was injecting this unprecedented level of excitement, showmanship.
And the crowds followed. Record attendance, right?
Immediately. That surge wasn't a coincidence. It was the Ruth effect. Phrases like Ruthville and, the house that Ruth built, they speak volumes about his immediate impact.
And the performance was just staggering from the get-go. 54 home runs his first year.
54, which was, get this, nearly 3 times the next highest total in the entire league. It wasn't just a great season. It was like he was playing a different game. A paradigm shift.
But, you can assemble all-stars, and it doesn't automatically click, does it?
Yeah.
This is where that idea of team culture comes in. It really struck me. It's almost like a business, isn't it? You need that shared purpose.
That's a brilliant analogy, actually, because sustained success, whether it's sports or the corporate world, it really does hinge on that cohesive culture.
So who was driving that for the Yankees back then?
A lot of credit goes to the manager, Miller Huggins. He took over a team that had talent, sure, but maybe lacked that unifying vision, that winning mentality.
And he had some big personalities to manage, I imagine.
Oh, definitely, including the biggest one, Ruth. Huggins' genius was partly his ability to handle those egos, to get them focused on a collective goal, instilling that drive.
But it wasn't smooth sailing all the way. I read about the disaster of 1925. Sounds dramatic. And apparently, Ruth himself was a big part of that downturn. Something about a bellyache.
Yes, the infamous bellyache heard round the world. 1925 was a rough year. Ruth was in poor physical shape, and it definitely impacted the team's performance and morale. Attendance dropped, too.
So even the mighty Yankees could stumble.
It was a potent reminder, yeah. But looking back, that setback might have actually been crucial. Maybe it forced a reset, a renewed focus that fueled what came next. Sometimes you need those rough patches.
Adversity forging stronger resolve, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
And that resolve definitely showed up in 1927 with Murderers Row. I mean, just the name itself, facing that lineup must have been terrifying for pitchers.
It paints a picture, doesn't it? And honestly, the reality lived up to the name. That batting order, Ruth, Gehrig, Lazare, Musial, Koenig, Combs, it was just relentless.
An offensive juggernaut.
Truly. Murderers Row wasn't just hype. It was an accurate description. There was just no easy out. Every single hitter felt like a major threat.
Okay, let's zoom in on some of that individual brilliance because the numbers are just mind-blowing. Babe Ruth's 60 home runs, 60, a record that stood for 34 years.
Just incredible. And it wasn't just the number 60, it was breaking his own record by such a margin. It cemented his status as this almost mythical figure of power.
And like we said earlier, even back in 1920, he was hitting nearly triple the next guy. He wasn't just leading, he was redefining the category.
Absolutely, fundamentally changing offensive expectations in baseball.
Then you have Lou Gehrig, the Iron Horse. Such a different personality from Ruth, right? Much quieter.
A total contrast. But his impact was immense. He actually won the MVP award in 27.
Oh, right. Because Ruth wasn't eligible, having won it before. Some weird rule back then.
Yeah, something like that. But Gehrig fully deserved it. He led the league in total bases, doubles. His overall production was phenomenal.
High batting average, loads of RBIs. He was the definition of consistent excellence.
That's it. The Iron Horse nickname wasn't just about playing every day. It was about his unwavering dependability in the heart of that order. Quiet, but deadly effective.
And you can't forget the guy setting the table, Earl Combs at leadoff. Led the league in plate appearances, at-bats, and hits.
Crucial. Absolutely crucial. Combs was the spark plug. His ability to consistently get on base was what allowed Ruth and Gehrig to drive in so many runs. He was the engine.
He kept the line moving.
Constantly. Those numbers just underscore how vital he was at the top.
And Tony Lazzeri, too. His stats are impressive across the board. WAR, runs, hits, RBIs. He wasn't just along for the ride.
No way. Lazzeri was a star in his own right. That high WAR wins above replacement tells you he was providing huge value, likely on both offense and defense, a key piece of that fearsome lineup.
So you put all that individual firepower together, firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, it's almost unstoppable.
And the results show it. 110 wins against just 44 losses in the regular season. Shattered the American League record for wins at the time.
Just utter dominance throughout the season. Consistent excellence.
And then, to top it all off, they go into the World Series against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
And sweep them 4-0.
Wow. Talk about an emphatic statement.
Yeah.
No doubt who the best team was.
Absolutely. It solidified their legendary status right then and there. They weren't just winning. They were operating on a completely different level.
Now, it's easy to get caught up in the big names. Ruth, Gehrig, Lazzeri, Combs. But a team is more than just its stars, right?
Of course. You need contributions from everyone.
And they got them. Pitchers like Dutch Ruther had a solid year, 13-6, I think. And a rookie, George Pipgras, went 10-3.
Right. Those wins from the supporting cast and the rotation were vital. You need that depth.
And even position players like Ben Pascal, an outfielder, hit over .300 when he got opportunities.
Every piece matters in a long season. Pascal provided valuable depth in offense.
And then you find these weird little side stories, like that whole thing with Julie Wera, the utility infielder. And some imposter later claiming to be him.
Haha. Yeah, that's a bizarre one. It just adds to the whole mystique, doesn't it? The legend grows, and strange things happen around it. It shows how much these guys captured the public imagination.
It really does. And it makes you think about how narratives get built. You know, like the called shot by Ruth in the 32 series.
Ah, the famous pointing gesture.
Yeah. Whether he actually called his shot or not is debated, but the story itself just adds to the legend, doesn't it? It fits the larger-than-life persona.
Exactly. Those stories, perfectly factual or maybe slightly embellished over time, they become part of the legacy. The called shot perfectly encapsulates Ruth's mystique and that sense of, I don't know, destiny around him.
So when we step back and look at the 1927 Yankees, it's just blindingly obvious why they're always in that greatest team ever conversation.
No question, they set a benchmark.
Ruth's arrival really was seismic, transforming the franchise. And their dominance in that era, it cemented the Yankees as the premier team, didn't it? So intertwined with the whole Roaring '20s vibe.
They absolutely captured the zeitgeist of that era and established a standard of excellence that really all subsequent Yankees teams have been measured against.
It's also interesting that contrast you sometimes hear about the sort of freewheeling carousers, maybe led by Ruth, versus the later, more disciplined teams built around Gehrig's work ethic.
Yeah, different eras, different leadership styles. It shows there isn't just one way to build a dynasty, I suppose. Ruth's charisma versus Gehrig's quiet dedication, both incredibly effective in their time.
So what's the takeaway then? The 1927 Yankees, they were more than just talent, weren't they? It was this potent mix, a winning culture, that relentless drive, and just a level of dominance that's still kind of awe-inspiring.
I think so. From Ruth's homers to Gehrig's consistency and the way the whole team just clicked.
It makes you ask that fundamental question, doesn't it? What really defines a dynasty? How do certain teams just transcend the sport? and become these timeless legends.
Well, it's got to be that convergence, hasn't it? Exceptional individual talent, yes, but also the leadership to harness it and that deep shared purpose that pushes them beyond what you think is possible.
The sum being greater than the parts.
Exactly. The 27 Yankees had all of that in spades, and that's why we're still talking about them, still trying to understand that magic.
A truly unforgettable team. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive into the incredible Murderer's Row of 1927.
My pleasure. It's always fascinating to revisit them.
Thanks for listening to Sportpen.